and welcome to my Hong Kong flat hunting video. Woo! The reason I'm so excited for this video is because I have been wanting to film my own flat hunting video ever since Ashley came out with her New York apartment hunting video. I'm so excited that I'm finally making this video. As you can tell, I got a new place and I'm gonna share with you some tips and my house tours and why I came to choose this very flat that I'm staying in right now. Then let's get started. So when you want to rent in Hong Kong as a student, there are basically 3 options that are available for you. You can stay in a flat, you can stay in a share house where you have a common area and you each have separate rooms, or you can choose to stay in a service apartment which has all of the furnitures all like furnished already, but it is like a luxurious version of a share house. Both share houses and service apartments are good in that they usually have like the electricity and water bill included in the fee, like the rent fee. But I found that for some reason those houses tend to be much more expensive. I think it's because they already come furnished and they also exaggerate the water and electricity bills. I opted to live in a flat because I was just like, if I'm gonna pay the same price for living alone and living with other people, then I'm just gonna pay the same price to live alone. And by flat, in Hong Kong, there's this kind of, I assume this is unique to Hong Kong, but there's this kind of special arrangement to houses where, imagine an apartment, you open the door, you go in, and there's a hallway. And then in the hallway, there will be like several different rooms, and each room is a flat. So each room is a house and will usually be fully functional. It'll have like a bathroom, like maybe a kitchen, a bed, and all of the amenities that come with the room. And this is what I mean by a flat. I'm assuming that the biggest question that you guys have are probably about the price, so let's get that done and over with. So when I first came to Hong Kong and I heard a lot of my seniors and my friends talk about renting in Hong Kong, I just heard that it's super expensive and ridiculous, which Hong Kong is infamous for their ridiculously high amounts of rent. But I found there are affordable options out there as long as you search hard and long enough. Through my personal experience, I found that for a one-person flat, the prices usually range from about 3,500 to up to 10k per month, which is a lot of money. So it really depends on your budget and how much you're willing to spend on rent. It also depends on like the district that you want to live in, how nice of a house you want, do you want windows, like how big of a space you want, etc, etc. However, I found that the prices for a decent sized house with decent amenities were usually about 4,500 to 8k a month. Oh, and also, just a tip, when you're looking at the rent, please, you need to make sure to check like if the rent price includes like government and management fee. Do they include water and electricity fees? But I wouldn't personally worry about those bills because in Hong Kong, the water and electricity bills are already pretty cheap anyway. And also check for other things like do they include Wi-Fi, or do they have a furnished space, etc. So then how much do you need in order to move or to find a house alone in Hong Kong? So when you move, you need about 4 months rent before you actually move. This is because once you find a house that you like, you're gonna have to sign a temporary contract. And when you sign this temporary contract, you have to pay 1 month's rent in advance as kind of like a deposit. And once you actually move into the house, like you get the keys and you sign the contract and everything, then you have to pay the landlord 2 months deposit. And if you went through an agent or real estate agency, then you have to pay them a half-month agent fee or commission fee. So for a house with 4k rent every month, it'll amount to about 14K to get the house, which is understandably a lot of money, but sometimes landlords are willing to haggle the deposit or rent prices. There also might not be an agent. You might be talking to the landlord directly, in which case you won't have to pay the agent fee. But generally speaking, this is the amount of money that you need to have prepared before you're ready to move out. So, the contract. Usually you sign a 2-year contract with only the first year being mandatory, and you can move out after the first year. Of course, a lot of places will also let you sign more short-term contracts where you only sign for a few months. However, I found that these contracts usually call for a higher rent, so I would recommend that you just get the 2-year contract and maybe just lend your lease or move out after a year if you can. When you look for a house, also you need to expect that a lot of people might not speak English, hence you might be rejected a lot. And another thing that I thought was super strange about this whole moving process was that all of the agents expected you to move in within like 2 days to 2 weeks of signing the temporary contract, which is, I don't know, but like that seems like a really short amount of time. So I also had a bit of difficulty because I was looking for a place to move in at least a month, if not 2 months after signing the contract. But yeah, keep that in mind. I honestly think it's a marketing tactic for people to kind of pressure you into buying the house. But anyway. Oh, also, I personally didn't encounter this issue, but I heard that a lot of agents and landlords will discriminate you based on your nationality. So obviously I'm from Korea, and I guess Korea has a good reputation, so people don't really care. But I did get my nationality asked quite a lot. And I've heard that if you're from more like developing countries, then people might reject you even viewing the house or you signing the contract, which is super shitty. But I guess if the landlord is that shitty anyway, do you really want that house? Right. So how on earth do you find houses in Hong Kong? There are a lot of different ways that you can find that you can look for houses. There's RentMe, Spacious, Craigslist. You can even look on Facebook groups, which I don't recommend because they're usually more expensive and have worse options. And the ultimate app that I would like to recommend is 28HSC. 28HSC is the main app that Hong Kongers use. It's a mobile app, and I personally found that it had the most options. It was easy to contact, and it was really easy to look at the houses as well. Even though the app is originally in Cantonese, everything is sometimes Google translated into English, so I didn't really have a difficulty looking for houses in there. And that's why I would personally recommend this app to you. So on to the last section, which I'm sure you guys have been waiting for the most. What I was looking for was affordable rent. I needed it to be somewhere between 3.5k to 5.5k a month. I was willing to push the budget up to the higher point if it was bill inclusive. I needed the house to be furnished because girls broke. I don't have money to spend on buying new furniture. I needed to have at least, a bed or a fridge, table, etc. I needed the house to be near an MTR station so I could go to school and work easily. I wanted the house to be safe and clean, especially as a young female. We have to worry about those kind of things. And I don't know why, but I really wanted an individual clean bathroom. Like, I was kind of a stickler for getting an individual bathroom. I think it's like the traumas of living in a shared hall space, but anyway. I would have also preferred for the house to have free Wi-Fi, AC, and a kitchen because I cook quite often. I think I looked at maybe like 100 different entries online, and I contacted about 50 to 100 different agents and I only got replies from half of them, and the half of the people that replied said they wouldn't let me see the house because I was looking for a house too early. So yeah. So the first house that I went to was in Quarry Bay. It was out for $4,500 a month for 80 square feet. For $4,500 a month, this rent was super cheap. It had a kitchen, it had a separate bathroom, and it had like this bunk bed. So it looked like the space was used pretty well. But the pictures on the app weren't that nice, so I was a bit suspicious. But when I first saw this house, I totally fell in love with it. I absolutely loved the modern wood finishes on this house. The house was super clean. The house was definitely small, but it was enough room for me to live alone. The kitchen was nice. The bathroom was super nice. The bed seemed super sturdy and nice as well. I liked that they actually lifted it up so it gave more space to the room. There was a nice little corner where I could work in. They also had a fridge, and the landlord was giving out free Wi-Fi. I liked this place a lot more because the landlord seemed like he was a really flexible and nice person. The agents that I met were also super kind to me as well. They were willing to like haggle the price down for me, which is obviously, you know, what they should do. But I was really grateful, and I was also super attracted to this house as well. However, this house does have some cons, being that the ladder would be super inconvenient. The table was super small because, you know, obviously the space was quite small. And as typical of Hong Kong, the windows were blocked off by another wall behind it. So those were kind of like the downsides of this house. Quarry Bay is a super quiet neighborhood. It seems like around the place was just a lot of schools and just not a lot of things happening here. So I felt quite safe about living here. It was also close to the MTR and a lot of tram and bus stations, so I like that as well. I saw this house and I loved it so much that I asked the agent if she could help me haggle the price down to $4,000 a month. And she said the landlord agreed, and he even agreed to let me only pay 1 month deposit. Like, I was so attracted to this house that I was kind of ready to sign the contract there. But I was like, wait, but this is the first house that I've seen. I should really see my other options and then decide, right? So I decided to see a few more houses before I signed the contract. The next house that I went to was in Mong Kok. This was more like a shared house, and it was out for $4,800 a month, and same 80 square feet. The pros of this house was that they had super nice new IKEA furniture. It was quite high, so despite being in Mong Kok, which is a super loud, like tourist bustling city, it was quiet, which I was pleasantly surprised about. It had this amazing large modern bathroom that I loved, even from the pictures as well. They said we could cook inside the room if we wanted. There's free Wi-Fi, a shared fridge, and even a shared washing machine. The landlords were super friendly, and of course the location is convenient as well. However, the biggest con of this house was that it was on the 7th floor with no elevator. This is actually a super common thing to see in Hong Kong, is that the buildings were built so long time ago that they don't have an elevator. You have to use stairs, and 7 flights of stairs. I personally have a trauma and a vendetta against stairs. I hate stairs and I can't stand the heat. So the fact that this was 7 flights up, despite it being kind of nice, was kind of a really downfall for me. And for such a small space, it was quite pricey. Like, they had a double bed, and they really didn't need a double bed because it made the space more tighter than it had to be. The area was kind of also maybe dangerous at night, you know, when people, in the city. And the other thing that I was concerned about was that the windows were kind of at the right height. You might be able to see the other person through the window, like if you were standing there, and I felt a bit insecure about that. Of course, the fact that there's no real kitchen and that there was no price negotiation really kind of let this house down for me, especially the stairs. So it was a bummer because this was a nice house, but it seemed like the house was popular and the house got contracted really soon anyway. So ultimately, I didn't go for this house. The next house that I looked at was in Kowloon City, and it was out for $4,300 a month with 100 square feet. This house was again on the 6th floor with no elevator, but it was quite clean. It seemed like it was in a quiet and safe neighborhood. There was a lot of buses near it, and I quite loved that the house was near the harbor, so I could walk around it at night. The bathroom was clean and the views in the house was nice as well. However, other than the fact that it was also 6 flights of stairs, there was no furniture, as you can tell from the video. But the person said I needed to get my own furniture, and if I got my own furniture, I would have to pay a higher rent. Like, it made absolutely no sense. Like, how could you live there? And the room wasn't even that big. Like, I'm so triggered. I'm so sorry. The landlord was so strict that he wouldn't let me move in furniture to live in this room with nothing in it. And also the agent was super like mean and salty, and she didn't really seem like she wanted to help us or anything. And this place was kind of in the middle of nowhere. Like, there was nothing around it. There was just nothing around it. So I didn't like this house obviously, and I didn't end up getting it for a lot of reasons, but I guess for someone else it might be a super nice fit for them. The fourth and final house that I looked at was in North Point. This house was out for $3,700 a month, and it was 70 square feet. Although this was the smallest house, this was the cheapest option, so I was quite interested, and I super love North Point because it's really, really convenient, and I would have loved to live there. The pros of this house was that the interior was newly renovated, so it was super new. The bathroom was clean. They said you could bring in extra furniture if you wanted. Obviously, the rent was cheap and the views from the house was quite nice because, again, like all of the other houses that we have seen, it was on the 7th floor with no elevator. Anyway, so despite it being in the middle of the city, it was quite quiet. And they did have a fridge, and it was a pretty nice space. Like, I could see myself living there if I moved around the furniture a bit. However, this place was obviously really small. It didn't have a kitchen, which was a bit of a downside for me. It was also sort of a shared house in that the hallway had a lot of storage units that you could use. And the biggest con for me was that they wanted me to move in 2 weeks after I saw this house, which was way too early for me, and I really couldn't make that time because I was still living in the halls at that moment. So, in case it wasn't blatantly obvious which house was my favorite, I got the first house that I saw. I mean, I guess I should be feeling super lucky that I found my dream house as the first house that I saw. I was quite scared, and this whole process was a lot for me, but I hope this helps clear up a lot of things for you. Please leave me questions if you have any below, and I'll try my best to answer them to the best of my ability. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like it if you did, and comment. Anyway, thanks for watching this video, and bye guys.